Weightlifters, it's weed. Hope you're doing well. This is the first lesson for nutrition, so if you have a food label somewhere nearby, pause this after I give you some directions, look at the food label and see what interesting information you can come up with. So you can pause it now and then get that, and then once you've looked at it, then come up with some ideas. Okay, so on the food label, you should see serving size, you should see the different nutrients that are involved and how much, what percent of the daily recommended allowance. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You should find out the ingredients and look at that list. And as you look at that list, are there words that are ingredients that you cannot pronounce? And are you cool with eating those unpronounceable words and putting that into your body? Normally in class, I hand out a bunch of food products that I have the labels, and we go through that, and there are some unknown words that are there. Multisyllabic, lots of syllables, not very many vowels. Okay, so moving on. So like I said, we're talking about sports nutrition concepts and some strategies, and this is the first one. So as you look at the meme here, because you know I like T-Nation memes, if people accuse you of being a health nut because of your activity and your dietary choices, does that mean that they're a death nut based on theirs? So you can get a PhD in nutrition. You can be Dr. Fill in your last name. And there is a lot of information out there, and you'll see research, and some of the research is not great. Where does the research come from? Who sponsored it, etc.? But what you want to do is, if you're interested in research, read it and find out, look at the results. So sometimes for nutrition, they'll have research and it says that the results were minimal or average, and then you look and half of the study they did really well and the other half didn't do so well. So it was beneficial for the people who it was beneficial for, so you should continue doing that. And the people who was not very good, then move forward. So remember, you're a sample size of one. All of your results are anecdotal. Doesn't matter what worked for someone else. It might not work for you for a variety of reasons. So we want to recognize the 6 essential nutrients. We want to find out what the 2 types of each of those are, except for the one that starts with water. W for water. Sorry, I gave that one away there. Okay, well, you need 5 more. And then carbohydrates and proteins are important for performance, and why. So you already have water. What are the other 5 nutrients that you need that you cannot get from your own body? You have to get them from an outside source, and we get that from eating and drinking. So you can see what the definition of nutrition is here and what the essential nutrients are. It says there's 45. We're going to break those down into 6 that come from there. And so if you name all of the vitamins, there's, who knows, basically 9 vitamins plus all the B complex. So that's how you get 45. But here are the nutrients. This next video, which we're not going to watch here, but it's going to be on D2L where you can watch it. It talks about the different organs and parts of the digestive system and how that process works. And it's informative. You should know that. It's not going to be on the quiz. So there it is. You can find that link on D2L under the web page. So here are the 6 nutrients: carbs, fats, minerals, proteins, vitamins, and water. So right now, stop and think, okay, what are the 2 types of each of those except for water? It's not salt and fresh, or bottled and not. But the other ones each have 2 types. You want to do that. There's a review sheet on D2L, and you might want to look at that. So the ChooseMyPlate.gov says that half of your meal should be fruits and vegetables. So think about the last time you went out to eat. Was half of your plate made up of fruits and vegetables? Probably not. It was probably mainly this one right here. So people, when they go out to eat, they're looking for the proteins. That would be your meats, for those of you who are not vegetarian. So here's some information about carbohydrates. You can see it's an energy producer. It's a macro, and it's 4 calories per gram. The recommendation, which might not work best for everyone, is 45 to 65% of your daily caloric need. For protein, macro, 4 calories per gram, The recommendation is somewhere between 10 and 35. 10 is a little bit low if you are trying to get stronger and or bulk. And then fats, 9 calories per gram. There's a video coming up here which you could watch. Fats are not harmful, they're necessary, it's an essential nutrient. But 20 to 35, in the late 80s and early 90s, there were a lot of bad reports about fat, and that's when we'll talk about the next lesson about metabolism, how that kind of happened. So Greg Glassman, he is the founder, owner, whatever, of the CrossFit movement. So here is this video I was talking about. If you click on that, on the web page on D2L, you'll be able to listen to it. I think it's 15, 16 minutes, something like that. And he talks about how sugar is basically the cause, one of the main causes of the obesity epidemic in the United States of America. And he talks about how in the late 80s and early 90s, everything was low fat and fat free. Well, if it's low fat or fat free, that means they just threw in a whole bunch of sugar. So here are proteins. Here are the top 10 sources of vegetarian proteins. So remember, we have amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. And if we get all of those, that is called a complete protein. And if not, it is an incomplete protein. And one of the ways of viewing this, again, the government says 10 to 35%. If you're trying to build mass, you want about 2 to 4 grams per kilogram of your body weight. So if you weigh 175 pounds, that's 79 kilograms, say 80, that's between 160 and 320 grams of protein a day, according to what some people recommend. So remember, there are complete, as I said, they have all of the amino acids, incomplete proteins. And which group has to be especially aware of incomplete protein combinations? Vegetarians, because a lot of our sources are animal products, good sources. Carbohydrates are the next. So in terms of activity, your muscles store glucose, which becomes glycogen, and that's what's used for muscle contractions. You really don't need to eat before you work out, though some people feel a little nauseous, and everything else is also stored in your liver. But 4 calories per gram. And fiber also falls under carbohydrates, so that's important on our current level, our current dietary guidelines. If you watch this video on D2L on the webpage, it will show you, it has a link because I couldn't get this to show up. But if you click on the link, this is one guy one time in the Netherlands. They speak Dutch, but there's English subtitles. And for a month, he eats no added sugars or alcohol in his system. And you can see what happens to him. I think it's 6-7 minutes. So carbohydrates, the two types, are simple and complex. And we want to avoid these. That's what they add in a lot of different foods. And you can see, if you watch that video, ketchup, soup, all kinds of different things have added sugar. So if you start looking at labels, you'll see that where they add it. It's like, well, why in the world did they add sugar? Well, because it adds flavor, and also sugar has a, I don't want to say addictive, but if you're used to having a lot of sugar and you stop, you're not going to feel real well. This next video is about those of you who drink sugary beverages, iced tea, soda, and also a lot of your sports drinks and your energy drinks have a lot of sugar in there. So you can check out what happens here. This link is also on D2L on the webpage. So be careful. Obviously, if you go to Starbucks and you get a drink, yeah, there's going to be a lot of sugar in there. But also, it says reduced fat. So remember, reduced fats means added sugars. And we eat an insane amount of sugar as Americans. The next one, so these are all macros, carbs, proteins, and fats. So fats are a macro, 9 calories per gram. That's one of the reasons why. And also, within saturated fats, that's where you can get cholesterol. And there is a risk for some individuals with higher cholesterol for heart disease. So there's two types of unsaturated, poly, and mono. And remember, saturated fats come in both animal and plant products. So if you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, there's saturated fat, but there's no cholesterol because animals need cholesterol, plants do not need cholesterol. So vitamins are another one. The next slide, you'll see the list of those. So there's two types: water and fat soluble. So here is the water soluble, which is the B and C complex. And so here's vitamin C, and all of these are the B complex. You don't have to memorize the best sources and how much you should be taking in and what they do, but you should know them as a human being. Fat solubles are A, D, E, and K, and they're right here. Again, you can see what the best sources are and how they help the body. We want nutrient-dense food, which means they have a lot of these and minerals, which are coming up, not a lot of calories. So your broccoli and your kale and your carrots and your celery, they have more of these and not a lot of calories. Where if you eat a steak, there's nothing wrong with steak, you get a lot of energy, but you don't get all of these. You get some of these. So you want to be aware of that. So minerals, there's two types. There's macro and micro or trace. And you can see the list here, obviously calcium. Sodium, we don't want to overdo sodium. We get that plenty in our processed foods. So you can see what some of the functions are. And again, here's a list. This is not a graduate level nutrition class. I took that when I was in college, my graduate degree, and we had to memorize all of the vitamins, all of the minerals, what the sources were, what happens when you had a deficiency. And now they have this new thing. It's called the internet. So you can see calcium, necessary, and what it does. And look, we have milk and broccoli and green leafy vegetables. So all of these come from plant and animal sources, just like vitamins. So the vitamins and minerals grow up in plants. Animals eat those plants. We eat those animals. We can get them vicariously through them. And then water is the sixth one. Vitally important. Of all of them, you will die first with a lack of water. No calories in vitamins, water, or mineral, but essential. You need those. And you can see what some of the purposes are. Here are some hydrating foods. That means that if you don't like drinking straight up water, you can eat or chew your water right here. I mean, heck, watermelon. Not very original. And then I don't know if using Usain Bolt as the average male is appropriate, but males are approximately 61% water, females 56% water. That doesn't mean that every male on the planet is 61 and every female is 56. It's just a overall estimation, a guesstimate of what that is. So, can you recognize and evaluate the 6 essential nutrients? C, F, M, P, V, W. And remember, there's a little F right beside this one. Determine the importance of carbohydrates and proteins for performance. And you need fats as well. So remember, it's about being the best you that you can be. Please email me or reach out to a classmate to find out more information. Check out the webpage on D2L and look at some of the other videos. They're interesting. Take care. Eat well, move often.